The first release of RBI Baseball on the Switch, the 2017 version, was a clear strike. Straight over the middle of home plate, no disputing it. Now 2018 saw a second strike, but it was a closer call, just nibbling the edges of the strike zone, and it really could have gone either way. But at the end of the day, despite being an improvement, it was still a strike. This brings us to the 2019 version. Now the pitcher is staring down the batter. He nods in agreement to the signal given from the catcher and starts his wind-up. The crowd waits with bated breath. Is RBI Baseball 2019 the third strike for this series? Or is this one going to go over the fences for a home run? Let's find out. Sorry about that, I got a bit bogged down in cliched analogies there. But the point remains, and this age-old franchise which rebooted some 6 years ago has been a staple on the Switch for the last 2 years and hasn't had a stellar history thus far. As I said earlier, last year's version was definitely a step up across the board, with improvements in gameplay and most notably the presentation, with an overhauled UI and licensed music. So with some momentum behind them, the in-house studios of Major League Baseball bring us this year's version just in time for spring training, and a big tick for bringing it day on day with the Xbox and PS4 versions. Okay, I do think it's important to say right off the bat that the RBI franchise is really a budget or mid-price release each year. And whilst fans love to compare it to the show on the PS4, that game has massive resources and a $60 price point. So all I'm saying is please temper expectations. With that out of the way, let's have a closer look at RBI Baseball 2019. What is it? Well, it's an arcade baseball game with a decent variety of modes, from exhibition games all the way up to a compelling 10-year franchise mode, featuring trades, free agents and injuries. This mode in particular has a decent amount of depth and can literally offer up hundreds of hours of gameplay should you decide to play the full 62 game seasons and playoffs for the 10-year duration. Also featured is a fun home run derby, which this year offers up some deeper options of customising your experience, and whilst it has some odd performance issues, it's a fun diversion from the main modes. Now sadly, once again the Nintendo Switch version lacks any online multiplayer, which is a bit of a crime, but there is a local 2-player mode if that's some consolation. Okay, well let's dig in a little deeper with my ups and downs, and I'll give you my final thoughts after that. And the first up is going to be the general presentation, which for the second year running is really nice. Whilst not much has changed in terms of the layout from 2018, it still deserves a mention as the game is full of slick looking menus, player art and new licensed soundtracks for this year. Now this carries on onto the field too, as the next up is an improvement in the look of the game. RBI 2019's look is night and day from 2018. Player models have seen the biggest step up, and whilst there isn't the detail of the individual models from the show, there are big improvements to player textures, lighting and most of the animations. The stadiums also look superb, featuring high detail and a 3D crowd, for which I think is the first time in this series. The game performs pretty well during gameplay too, once a 2.6 gig day one patch is applied, and there aren't too many issues there. It's promising to see the devs pushing out patches so quickly as well. With that said about the performance, I will sneak in the first down here, and that is that performance isn't 100% perfect all the time, with the biggest issues being seen during cutscenes, which run at 10 to 20 frames per second at best, look very blurry as well. I really hope the devs can continue to optimise these areas, and whilst they don't affect gameplay directly, it can be distracting to hit a brilliant home run and then be treated to a hot mess of a cutscene playing out. There are still inherent problems with this game engine though, and that gets another down. Again, I'm trying to bear in mind that this RBI series leans towards that budget price point, but there can't be too many excuses for the outfield animations still being so janky. Fielders glide around the ballpark, magically warping to the ball at times, and will often turn their backs just before catching the ball, which then passes through them. I would have hoped after 6 revisions of this game they would have fixed this issue, as it can't be too hard to resolve in a game of this size. Thankfully, animations elsewhere are generally okay except in the home run derby mode, where for some reason the batter swings like he's on performance enhancing drugs. Just looks really odd. I'm not sure what this is, and it's a strange one, and again, hopefully can be patched. Okay, I'm going to hand out another down here, but bear with me. I'm going to have a little moan about the basic controls. Now this might seem a little unfair, as after all this is a 2-button arcade baseball game and the basic control scheme has carried over from the NES version of the late 80s. But the pitching is so basic to the point it becomes a chore trying to mix your pitches up, as all you can choose is fast, slow or medium pitches and then apply a little bit of a curve after the fact. You have no control over the location where you can put the ball in the strike zone, and the game kind of loses that pitcher versus battle feel due to that. Batting similarly gives you 2 options, swing or bunt. You can slightly influence the height of the hit, but the pitches are so hard to pick out that trying to swing late or early for direction on the outfield is a frustrating affair. Now I do want to balance this with an up, and that's to slightly contradict myself, but the game is actually quite decent fun to play in an arcadey way. Games don't tend to drag on too long, and you can plough through a game in sort of 20 to 30 minutes, compared to a full game on the show lasting anything up to an hour. When you do manage to get a hit to the outfield, it still remains very satisfying, and the variety in sound effects of the ball coming off the bat are also very welcome. Now talking of sounds, something that isn't very welcome, and again is a legacy issue in this modern RBI series, is the annoying umpire voice samples. I'm going to give this a down due to how much it annoys me personally, and I'm sorry, it's really petty. The annoying strike and ball calls are aggravating enough, but the silly little organ call that plays behind each one too, ugh. Now you can turn off the voices in the game, but then that leaves no voice in at all. And I was actually going to give this another down for the lack of play-by-play in the game, but I felt that was kind of harsh given the game's budget price point. I'm going to end on a final up, and that is the longevity of the game. That improved 10-season franchise mode is a real draw for non-PS4 console owners, alongside the exhibition matches for a quick game and the home run derby for something a little bit different. You also have quite the deep customization options available too, being able to manage your rosters either inside or out of franchise mode, and MLB always delivering regular roster updates via online patches, so you know you're getting that genuine, authentic MLB experience. So in summary, I would pitch this game at the casual baseball fan, though if your only console is the Nintendo Switch, you are kind of limited in your options. I know many hardcore baseball fans who literally only own a PS4 due to the show, so this game is absolutely not for them. The lack of online play again on the Switch version is a real shame, and I don't know why they can't add something in at least, even if it's just like a quick 3-inning match against somebody else. I think the big problem with RBI Baseball in general is the way it awkwardly straddles arcade and simulation genres. It has this deep franchise mode and it looks as authentic as possible, and has none of the silliness like power-ups, big head modes etc. in some arcade games. But then at the same time, the basic control scheme and janky animations really do pull you out of the simulation feeling. There's a pretty decent engine at play here, and with the unprecedented access that MLB will of course have to players, stadiums and everything else baseball, I'd love to see them make a decision one way or the other. Either go full on arcade like MLB Power Pros, or preferably tighten up the game a little bit and make it more of a simulation and a serious competitor to the show. It wouldn't even need a complete overhaul to do it, just tweak the pitching to give us some proper pitch options, and ideally a location selection for the strike zone. Allow us to have more control over the angle of the bat when swinging so we can put the ball into play where we like. And maybe add a power bar for outfielders so we've got some degree of error there when we're throwing to bases and stuff. Okay, so going back to my opening points, is this third strike and out for RBI Baseball on the Switch? Well, no, it's definitely not. This is a confident swing and hit into play. The game is now at first base, an improvement on the last 2 years, and that is a definite positive. But I'd love to see next year's version make a real swing for the fences. Overall, I'm going to give RBI Baseball 2019 a 7 out of 10, and whilst it's a great option for some portable arcade baseball fun, there are some legacy flaws in this series that really do need addressing. Okay, that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and if you enjoyed that, please consider subscribing and liking this video. Drop me some comments below. Had lots of comments so far on the various RBI videos I've done over the last few days, and if you do have any more questions or want any more help or advice, just drop me a line below. But until then, I will catch you on the next video. Thanks again for watching, and bye bye.